Hi, welcome to Hypothetically Intentional, where we ask the question, what if we set intentions with everything we do? I'm your host, Michelle Albers, and today we have back with us Alina Doran of Highline Leadership. Welcome, Alina.
Thank you. It is wonderful to be here and to be back here with you.
I'm excited for today's conversation. Before I drop into what we're going to talk about, I want to set an intention. Do you want to set one as well? Do you have one in mind?
Mm. Ooh. The intention is to be of service.
Yeah, I love that intention. I feel like that's been my intention my whole life. I'm going to get off on a tangent right out of the gate here. That's been my intention the whole life. But for the first three, maybe two-thirds of my life, that was my intention to my own detriment. And now it is my
Mm.
intention from a pure heart and a pure place that is equally aligned for myself. And then also, hopefully, ideally aligned for, whomever chooses to receive it. So that's such a beautiful intention. My intention that I had at the forefront, simply because of what we're going to talk about, is to be as open and raw and real as I can possibly be while still, respecting boundaries for myself and others. Because I'm feeling pretty raw these days. So you had talked about perhaps talking about processing and what that might look like when we're, well, not only when we're in it, like processing in general in
Yes.
life.
Yes.
Which is such an
Yeah.
amazing um concept, and it feels so intuitively aligned. Like I know you're an intuitive human. And
Yeah.
it just feels so perfect.
It's I mean it's coming up for many reasons. It's a great helpful. I love that just take a step back for a second, the intentionality of in service and to be raw and real.
Yeah.
Which sounds like our intentions align beautifully.
Yeah.
To be real and authentic and raw is to be of service
Right.
and to not step on yourself and make yourself the doormat purely for the enjoyment and service of others. That's not in service to you.
Right.
That's so it is for the big in like capital letters in service of
Hmm.
all, not at the expense of all. That's the intention. And I love and appreciate the nuance that you bring to every single conversation that we have. You delineate this beautiful nuance. We strip it apart and really zero in on like the essence of every topic we talk about. So
Mm.
I love that this one happens to have hit record.
Yeah, thank you.
I
I,
love
I
that.
do appreciate I appreciate our conversations very much too. They tend to go, I never know exactly where they're going to go, but here's one thing I can count on when I'm talking to you, Alina, and that is they are going to be real. Like we cut to the chase, we cut the bullshit, and we just like dive in. And I appreciate those I mean, that is the whole intention of this entire podcast is to be real, to be authentic, to be in service. Um,
Mhm.
and if we're thinking about processing in specifically, I kind of want to dive right into what that's looking like for
Yeah.
me right now.
Yeah, let's do it.
I was in the car yesterday and I feel like I have an elephant sitting on my chest more often than not these days, just because I have a lot of moving parts happening right now that bring me a lot of stress that I'm recognizing and fully aware it's because my external world is super very much not in my control, which is always the case. I talk about it with my coaching clients all the time, but it's in a state that brings me some fear and concerns.
Mm.
And so then my internal world, while it's usually pretty dang good, and it still is, but there's also it's just more messy than it usually is. So I have like this awareness of, oh, my chest feels tight. That's not normal for me. I definitely need to put some intention around my own energy clearing, but then also like, where is this coming from and how do I process it? Like, what needs to be processed? Or is it simply that I need to refuel? Like, is the processing part over and I just forgot the refuel part? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Because there's always layers to how this stuff plays
Oh,
out.
oh yes.
But I realized as I was in my car driving, I had this awareness of this. I don't know, I guess the gift of awareness is what it was because as I was processing, just like, where is the stress coming from? How can I come to acceptance of like all the what ifs that are scaring me right now? And just drop into like, look, trust. the process, trust the processing. And what I realized is I was in a pain point and I was in just like this, I was feeling a lot of like just emotions that weren't comfortable for me. And I immediately thought, gosh, I cannot wait for the Thailand trip. I just need to get there. And it was absolutely positively an avoidance tactic in that moment. And I saw it and I was like, oh my God, even my favorite thing, my home away from home, this total reset for me that is normally a healthy, in alignment with my highest self kind of a thing that I want and need and desire and totally appreciate and like have such gratitude that it's part of my life can also be something that I use as a tool to run away from my current situation. And I was like, holy shit, I just used the thing that is the most healthy for me, usually as a
Mhm.
way of escapism of the pain that I was sitting in that moment. And I was like, God damn it. It was such a weird awareness, but it was so beautiful.
It's, I'm processing everything that you're
Yeah.
talking about more in just putting it all together. It's, first of all, thank you for sharing. And what a relevant example anywhere in life for anyone listening, like whether it is personal bad news, whether it is professional life, what seems like bad news, whatever it is that is out of our control and came to us by surprise or maybe
Mhm.
by anticipation and running from it. Like there's only so much pain that one is perhaps willing to, open to dealing with in only so long a period of time, perhaps. And the deflection tactic, like you're talking about, Thailand being your genuine, authentic, happy place, I think nothing is sacred and nothing is exempt. There are no exemptions from what can be used as a deflection tactic to avoid processing pain, processing discomfort. Nothing
Yeah.
is sacred. Anything, even the thing that is real and serves you. In fact, it often is the thing that is real and serves you that is used as a deflection tactic because the optics for yourself and for the external world look so elegant. Like, well,
Mm.
it's Thailand. So for you, in your example, it's Thailand. For years, you've been going to Thailand, and there's so much that you get out of it. It is genuinely a place that you love and it adds to your life. And it could be used as an escape
Yeah.
to look away, right? Just like taking an unnecessary course,
Oh, sure. Yeah.
like or a helpful course. Maybe it is a very useful course. Maybe we need it in 6 months. Maybe we don't need it right now. Maybe moving up the timeline and taking it right now helps us be busy and not look and have validated reasons to not start to process or not to continue to process something.
Yeah, I love that point because it's funny because that's where I was going to go next with my story is that after I got done smirking and like having that oh shit moment with myself of like, oh man, how did I do that? Then I realized, okay, I have an awareness that this temporarily was like a way to escape the thing that I knew in that moment. I just had a knowing that I needed to just sit in it. What I realized is, okay, now I have that awareness. Thailand can still be the thing that holds space for me and grounds me and gives me something to look forward to and bring me joy so that I have the capacity to actually sit with the wounds and the pain points and the fear that I was in. And so it was like as quickly as that perception and observation came in of like, oh my God, I'm using this as a tool to escape my shit. I also then flipped the switch and was like, but hang on, like it's okay. It can still hold space for you. It can still be there for you. And you can still sit with this, fear that you're sitting in right now. And all of that can be true. And that is the beautiful of the duality of the human experience. I don't know, it was a super messy, really fast experience in my mind, but like hindsight, like today, as I'm chewing on it and sitting with it, it's kind of interesting to note that like I think it points to we get to give ourselves grace.
Oh,
Because old me would have beat myself up for using the thing that I love as an escape in a bad way, not a good way, using terms that I don't super love, but to make it clear, my point clear.
mhm. This was my, as you were saying it, this is my thought bubble was being kind to yourself, that grace
Yeah.
of which would slow down the processing to begin with, slow down all just progress in general, is when we start to self-flagellate, beat the crap out of ourselves. Like, oh, I'm doing it. It's bad, bad. Like the judge comes out,
Yeah.
whipping, like you're doing it again. And
Yeah.
I appreciate like this is, and you're demonstrating what's possible when someone has done and continues to do deep, deep work on oneself and continue to pursue this deep self-awareness, authentic self-awareness. And it's an ongoing thing. It's not like you're done.
Yeah,
It's
right.
a, it's a,
There's no end.
it's in perpetuity of this lifetime, and maybe you'll figure out something better in the next lifetime. And it's catching yourself. I love that you share this. Like you gave yourself grace, and by giving yourself grace and giving yourself that space, you create possibilities for. It doesn't need to be one or the other. It can be and.
Yeah, it can be all of the above. You can check box E or whatever,
That's
all of
right.
the above.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's both. And that's possible when the horse blinders are loosened and we give ourselves a little grace.
Yeah.
A
The other
little,
thing, as
yeah.
we're talking about it, I realize and recognize that fear breeds fear. Because I was afraid. I got afraid when I like used Thailand as a tool that was negative. I'm like, no, no, Thailand can't have anything negative associated with it, which is just a ridiculous expectation anyway,
Right.
you know. But then also it was like, oh, I have been in a fear state. Like and I don't know, like fear of like outcomes that I feel like I'm not ready for, but also
Mhm.
that like I'll be ready because that's just how it works. You say you're not ready. Of course you're not ready. You're not ready because it doesn't look the way you thought it was going to look. But
That's
the
right.
reality is like the way things play out and land, it's okay. And it's not always okay in the moment, but ultimately I believe in the greater good and the greater plan and divine guidance and divine timing and like it's for the best and highest good is a
Right.
real thing in my life.
I am so with you. It's to the person, right? The soul living in the body, it feels quote unquote wrong. It feels not ready. It feels like this is all not going the way I hoped it would or envisioned it would. And it may really all be serving the higher good. Like what's happening right now to you is in your highest good. This is the way that it's going to go for it to serve you best. This is why it's happening. It may feel inelegant and uncomfortable and downright painful, but this is for you.
Yeah.
This is for you. And that faith, the faith that this is how it's going to go. Oh, I'm, yeah.
And I think that supports processing on a
Oh,
level that
yes.
that shifts it and changes it. And I really think I learned this. Well, I shouldn't say I learned it. The door was opened for me to experience this and dance this little dance, little
Mm.
big deep dive dance back when my nephew had brain cancer, when, this was like 12 years ago. 12? Is it 12? Gosh, it doesn't seem possible, but it is 12 years ago. And he's in college now and doing well. But I had this, and it's similar today because it's health concerns from someone that I really care about. So it's maybe even I hadn't even connected those dots. This might be triggering some of like those memories and emotions as well. But like it truly is absolutely positively out of our hands. Like you can't control like certain things, nephew, brain cancer. There's only so much you can do to navigate that and to understand, how to process or whatever. But that I remember realizing that me living in that fear was perpetuating more fear and it wasn't doing anybody in the room any good. And so
Mhm.
I actually had a processing moment where I actually had to sit with myself. This is going to maybe sound terrible. I still, when I say it, it surprises me, but I literally had to sit with myself and understand that no matter what the outcome was, we were all going to have to be okay. And that was like a terrifying, terrifying reality. Like no matter what, there was no choice. There was acceptance had to be there. And so what that did is it brought me into the present moment. And then I could process like the present moment and not think so far out because thinking so far out was what was messing me up. And thank you for inviting this conversation today because it is helping me. I'm literally in real time processing that I need to just drop into being more present right now because my fear is getting oh, it's getting away from me. It's getting too far out. I'm thinking too far ahead about the what ifs and how are we going to navigate the next steps versus just being in the moment and showing up in my best possible way
Hmm.
for myself and for others.
What what is the gift in this very moment for you?
The fact that I'm reminding myself that being present, I can put an intention to be an observer of myself and recognize that when that fear pops in, I now have an anchor. Are you present? Are you present in this moment? That is that's because I've just over time have built this like lesson with myself or an anchor with myself that if I set an intention to be an observer for a very specific thing, it can help me look for that quote unquote catch. I don't like catch myself because that feels guilty, shamey, but like I can witness myself in real time and then remind myself that I'm safest and most grounded and most aligned with my own integrity and purpose when I'm present, when I'm just focused on what's, how do I want to show up right now? And it's never in fear, ever. I never want to show up in fear, even though fear will be there. Like, but I want to show up in fear that is realistic and accurate and has hope, not fear that feels devastating and hopeless and just to a point where it freezes you up and you become unproductive everywhere, which as a person who enjoys taking steps that lead myself and others to a place that is for the best and highest good, to be unproductive and frozen is just not a state that works for me very well, especially if I'm
Mm.
not processing either. Right?
Fear is a straitjacket.
Oh gosh.
It constrains and constrains our line of vision, blurs our vision. It's like you're not here and you're not there and you're not anywhere. And all that's happening is your nervous system is doing tricks.
Yeah.
It's like a circus and no one's entertained.
Yeah.
And then your body's exhausted and nothing productive has happened.
So when you find
That-
yourself in that state, like when you, because I mean, I can ask that question to any human and they have had that state, right? Like we all had the state of fear to the
Absolutely.
point of freezing or flight or whatever your response
Yeah,
is.
absolutely.
How do you, what's like, do you have a go-to or does it depend?
So in terms of what I personally do in moments of fear, I'll give you the most, I'll give you a much less risk, like lower risk, easy example. So I don't enjoy flying.
Yeah.
Something personal about me. I really don't like flying. I don't like the feeling of not being in control. I don't like the feeling of looking down, like knowing that there's nothing underneath us to support us physically. I imagine all sorts of statistically unlikely outcomes. And it's an unpleasant feeling of fear and constriction. And if I continue going that way, it would likely turn into something that's close to a panic attack.
Mm.
I also don't like closed spaces.
Oh, so that's a double whammy.
So it's a double whammy. And so in those moments when and I do fly, I choose to fly, is I take that moment and I surrender. I remind myself a couple things. One, I remind myself the statistical likelihood of a disastrous outcome being lower than XYZ outcomes, right? Like a plane crash versus a car crash, right? Versus, I don't know, a piano falling out of a window and falling on someone's head. Like, what couldn't happen in this world, right? So I remind myself the statistical outcome, the likelihood of that. And I also remind myself that having made the decision to be on this plane, at this point, I have no choice over where to be physically. And so then I remind myself that really a great thing for me to do right now is to love this moment and enjoy it. And so I look out the windows, I look at the ground below me, I start to notice how different the ground beneath me looks as we fly over the surface. And I think about the people who live in those regions and what they're up to and what their life is like and how it's different from where I live and how we're all united. And I get into these beautiful thoughts of love and unity. I'll start to have business ideas. I'll start to feel inspired. So I remind myself that I'm not in control. So you might as well enjoy it and love it. Just love it. And something similar happens on a more regular basis. I regularly take a cable car over a river as a mode of transportation. Again, don't like have a fear of heights. It's a cable car. It's hanging by cables. If it falls into the river, right? Like disastrous outcomes. So I'll have these intrusive, unwelcoming thoughts. And I'll remind myself when I have those thoughts, you're here. Definitely can't change that. So love it. And then I will start to notice my surroundings. So those are examples of day to day how I deal with those. And so
I
right,
love that so much. Because I heard I'm hearing my friend Kat, who's been on the podcast, she's a doctorate level psychologist and she teaches psychoeducation at our weekend events. And so much of what you said is stuff we talk about in those weekends, such as like, it sounds to me, I'm this way too. You're a catastrophizer. Like you take things as far, like you catastrophize like things when you're in that state. And Kat always talks about walk it out, let it get as bad as it can, like think of the worst, catastrophize it all the way out, but then walk
yep.
it all the way back. And that's exactly what you were talking about. You walk it all the way
Yes.
back and then you go to the how good could it possibly be? And you
Mhm.
take it there. The other thing I noticed is you were talking about you basically grounded and brought yourself to the present moment because you
Mhm.
said you become aware of your surroundings. Like
That's
that
right.
is grounding. That is present. So the people who don't understand what grounding is or have never done it, who maybe just want to find a new way to dance with what it's like to be grounded, just look at your room, the space you're in and notice what's there. That is a very grounding practice. And
Oh,
it also is a very present because it's a very present practice. Presence and grounding, they go together so beautifully.
yes.
And that
Yes,
that
they
was such a
do.
beautiful explanation and such a simplified walkthrough of the journey from
Mhm.
fear and the tendency to catastrophize all the way
Yep.
back to wait, I'm right here right now and I get to choose to be joyful and grateful and present if I want to, and I'm making that
Yes.
choice extremely mindfully with radical acceptance around the fact that there's this fear that I have that I can't seem to shake. So I'm
Mhm.
going to work with it instead of against it. I'm going to acknowledge that it's there and then I'm going to find something else to occupy my mind in a beautiful
Mhm.
way.
Yeah. Well, it's that's right. It's the catastrophizing part of us is a part of us that wants to keep us safe.
Mhm.
It's the part that wants to keep us from taking risks that are unreasonable. So that's okay. That's included. It's part of our humanity. And that's there. And then you kind of match it up with reality. So yeah, that's exactly what I do. The worst thing that can happen, like the worst end of the line.
Yeah.
And but really, is that really true? Is what's the likely outcome, the likelihood of that happening?
Yeah.
Looking at
Exactly.
the delta between that, like, well, that's a distance. And the next recognition of, well, I don't have a choice about being on an airplane in this moment or being in a cable car hanging over a body of water. What I do have a choice about is this very moment and loving it. I want to
Yeah.
love it. I don't want to tolerate it. Tolerating it is not where I want to live and where I want to be. I want to love it. So I choose to love it. And then I get really happy.
You know
It's
what's cool?
incredible. It's incredible.
It's so
What's
cool.
cool?
Well, because I
What's
was
cool for you?
I kept hearing cow jai, which is Thai for I understand, but what it means when you translate it is I take it from my mind and I bring it to my heart.
Oh,
And you literally just described that. You went logical on the catastrophizing,
that's
and then you came into your heart with being present and choosing to love it.
what is the term again? Say it
Cow
slowly.
jai.
Say it again.
Cow
Cow,
jai.
cow
Jai.
jai. What a
Cow
incredible
jai.
term.
Yeah.
Cow jai. The Western world doesn't have as many terms
No, and
or
because
the
I was
integration. And Oh, what I love about cow jai, what I love about it is how central it is to the work that I do all day, every day with individuals and organizations. It
Yeah.
is cow jai for corporations and business strategy and executives and excellence in leadership.
Yeah, Dan and I took
It's,
language lessons for a while, and when he told us cow
oh my
jai and what
goodness,
he just said it means I understand, and then when he described it, what it actually means translated literally, I was like, oh, that is how I want to live my life.
it's incredible. It's so many, myself included, for so much of my life, and so many people I work with are cut off at the neck, right? They
Mhm.
make decisions, they over index, overheat the cognitive. They think logically through. It's how they make decisions. It's how they lead. It's how their career progresses. It's thoughts of what makes sense and what they choose, and they're just going to do it. And oftentimes they will ignore all like the volumes of wisdom that's coming from their body,
Right.
and
Yeah.
it's cut off. So you're sitting in an office in a formal environment, and you're wearing maybe constrictive, clothing and shoes that are not most comfortable often, and or even in startups where you are more, casually dressed, but you're in presence of other people and their expectations of certain performance and certain conduct and behavior. Absolutely. And that environment often makes it more challenging to forget and to disassociate the head from the body.
Mhm.
And it's an environment that makes it oh so easy to just go. Like you have an agenda, you have a to-do list, you have key performance indicators and metrics, and you have your data points, and you just go. And there is a line where there's just no memory of, hold on, I made this decision with my head. I just felt something in my gut. My instinct just told me that's not a good idea.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna go ahead and ignore it.
I'm going to explain this away logically because that's how
Be-
I operate.
and there are so many ways to explain something away
Oh,
logically.
yeah, you can
You
always find a way.
always find a way, right? Like data is like Play-Doh. You can make any shape you want. I mean, look at politics is a great example. Whatever side one's on, you can take data and twist it and turn it and shed light on it from different angles to expose different warts and pimples and dents in whatever way that is convenient to telling your story. Similarly to corporations and startups that tell their story, right? There are ways to tell a story that's going to put an organization in beautiful light, a light that tells a narrative and a story. So that storytelling can often over index on the cognitive and forget all about the heart and the rest. So that word is beautiful. And I love that it takes this whole concept and summarizes it to one word.
That's exactly what, well, I mean, it's two words. It's cow and jai, cow jai.
How, okay.
Cow jai. But you have this
Noted.
magical way, at least for me, you have this magical way of taking something that feels so very complex when we start, because I'm in it, right? Like I'm in the process of processing, which is a funny thing to say. And it feels intense and heavy and like a roller coaster and joyful at times and like a big sigh of relief at times, but it's complicated is how it feels to me right now. And literally this conversation, how do I process? What's the easy answer for me? It is Kaujai. I am so much in my head right now with the fear and the what ifs and the oh my goodness and the emotional and then just stories I'm telling myself and old patterns coming back and forward for me to look at again and again and again. And all I need to do is couch I just need to get into my heart space. I have been spending way too much time in my head space. Part of that is because I'm navigating a lot of questions and I need to understand what's going on and I have to make sure I'm communicating well. So it's requiring a lot of logical mind stuff. But here's the other thing, and I am showing up in this way as well. It also requires a lot of compassion. But what I'm forgetting is that as I'm processing, I'm logically processing and I'm forgetting the compassion for myself piece. I'm forgetting the coming from my heart space. I'm forgetting to come from my faith and my trust that I do believe in the greater good. I do believe in a higher power. I do believe that for the best and highest good is a real thing that I can tap into anytime. And I just forget when I'm in it sometimes. And you just gave me the beautiful, how do you process? I couch shy. When I'm doing it well, I'm in that state of equal both. I think they're both important. I think we need logic, but we need our brain, but we also need our heart. And I
Mhm.
have to drop into the present and allow my heart to feel, speak, know, heal, and just experience all of it without my mind trying to justify it or explain it or tell me what I need because my body knows, like you said earlier, it will tell me, but I have to get quiet enough to just hear it. I don't know how you do it. You have this way in conversations of like getting to the nugget and simplifying what can feel like a very complex thing for people.
Oh,
So thank
I'm,
you.
I am, you're welcome. And thank you for letting me into this space
Mm.
with you because this is real life. This is a real human with real challenges to process, with real emotions, real thoughts. It's all, this isn't an illustrative example. This isn't theoretical. This is real.
Yeah.
And it's real for everyone going through something, which is everyone.
Yeah. And the importance of, I definitely am a human who and I, maybe everyone's this way. I'm definitely this way. I need time to chew on it and let myself go all the different places I'm going to go within the stuff that I'm in. Because I feel like and maybe this will evolve over time, but in the now, I need to explore all of it, the good, the bad, the ugly, all of it. And I need time to do that on my own so that I can come to kind of where I feel like I'm actually sitting. And then conversations like this, like I can only coach myself for so long, right?
Oh,
And then to have that outside perspective of someone you love, you trust, and who has a proven track record of bringing the value, the wisdom, the joy, the love, the compassion and then is willing to take time to sit with you in that way is such a blessing. And I think sometimes our pride gets in the way of leaning into other people. And I don't feel like I show up that way anymore, but I definitely used to, where my pride would get in my way of me trusting anyone or allowing anyone to see me this messy. And I just the mess is so much part of it, and it's not a bad thing. And when you're allowing yourself to get messy with people who can hold space like a motherfucker, because you can hold space like a motherfucker, girl. um, it's a beautiful thing. It takes you so far. Like the elephant's gone. I don't have the elephant on my
oh,
chest, and I did when we started. So thank you. Bless you. Amazing. Holy crap.
you just gave me goosebumps. I am grateful to be here with you in the space, and the mess is included. And the
Mm.
mess for the listeners that feels like there's shame that can often be attached to, like there's pride and shame that often keep us from reaching out for
Yeah.
help.
Yeah.
Like, no one else has this. No one else has done it that bad. No one's got it, a pile of shit that high and that complicated.
Yeah.
And when you get into it and you start looking at it and you start looking up and around, you realize that it's just part of the human experience. Like your pile is different from someone else's pile, but everyone's got, like, messy is included in being human in this experience. And the only way to not have it is to like lay a giant rug over it and let it fester for a long, long time and see if it rots the floors and the foundation of your house. That's an option, right?
It's an
Like,
option.
you don't have to process it. And maybe that's something that, to kind of bring it full circle, like why process if it feels bad?
Yeah.
What happens if we don't process?
I think sometimes we need a pause before we start to process.
Mhm.
And that pause, at least in my experience, can only happen for so long before it festers into, as you were implying, it festers into something that now damages the foundation that we're standing on, which is a problem because I'm not really looking to fall through floors.
That's right. Now it's causing structural damage. Before it smelled like shit. That you can clean up more easily, but now it's starting to damage, right, the actual structure of this house. So let's
Right.
get into it. And that awareness, the discernment of knowing when something's been sitting with you long enough where, okay, it's time to really look at it. It's time to look at it and really see what it is and feel it and let it go through us, every part
Yeah.
of us. Yes,
Yeah.
the mind. Yes, the heart. Yes, the gut. Let it go through and kind of, I mean, the only way out is through,
Yeah.
right? The only way out
Yeah.
is through. If we don't process it, it will just fester and we will come up with so very many stories because we are story making machines. We can craft as many stories as we need to avoid dealing with it and deflect dealing with it, right? Like a trip, like a class,
Mhm.
like cleaning, like running errands that on surface look perfectly reasonable and helpful.
Yeah.
But that discernment, that being really honest with ourselves, like what's really happening here,
Right.
that takes strength and it's brave, and doing it alone can be really hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oof. Thank you for sharing of yourself in this and coming in
Same.
whole.
Yeah. How are you feeling? Feels like a wrap. Does it feel like a wrap to you?
No,
Any other tidbits you would add? Any other thing that came forward for you within this conversation?
Kaujai. Kaujai.
Cowjai.
Kaujai is the word of the day, word of the month.
Yeah.
That's what came up. It's integrating. It's not just thinking, it's thinking and inviting the other friends at the table.
Yeah, I love that you said that because I was just thinking it's almost like our brains are connected. I was just thinking using all parts of ourself has such a
Everyone.
profound impact and
Yeah.
takes you so beyond what you could even imagine. But we have
Yeah.
to remember to do it. Like we get really good at certain things. And like for me right now, I'm really great at thinking. Which not in a way that takes me somewhere good, but I'm really great at thinking in a way that's taking me to places that's
Mhm.
not so great. But I'm good at it. And
Oh,
so I'm
yes.
comfortable there. So I have to bring in all parts of myself because I'm also good at compassion. I'm also good at, gratitude and appreciation and love and kindness. So remembering to pull, mind, body, spirit, let's pull it all together and use all parts of being.
Yeah. I love that. Everyone, come on in.
Yeah,
Fear,
come to the
fear,
party.
fear, gratitude, shame, guilt, pride, love,
Yeah,
strength, courage.
right. They're all there for
Come on
us. Let's
in.
call them
Come on
in.
in.
Let's invite them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
beautiful.
beautiful. You just demonstrated processing live,
Right?
real time.
Oh, and you were there to hold the space and also demonstrate processing. So I appreciate that very much. Thank you. Thank you for
Ah,
spending this time. Hopefully we helped some people. I mean, it feels like something that maybe it's a layer to the healing where we don't talk about all that often. We often talk about the wounds or the inner child or the shadow work or you know, the steps in or out or through. And I feel like the processing part, I don't know, this feels very aligned. So whoever you are out there that this is like I don't know, impacting or you're feeling some kind of way about it, shout out to you. You're not alone. We're in this together and reach out. How do they find you, Alina, if they want to reach out?
oh, and and yes, and I will get to that in a moment.
Yeah, okay.
But it's the processing of what's happening in our quiet time, in our personal lives, at work, on our way to work, any part of our lives. So when we talk about like executive coaching, leadership development work, that processing that we've been talking about is absolutely positively part of what it takes to have clarity and
Oh
conviction
gosh.
and confidence and all of the metrics, the hard numbers that, the end results that are easy to measure and observe. To get to clarity, to get to a brilliant strategy, an innovative strategy, to lead a team that is fully invested and cares personally about the mission and will share bad news long before they have to and share laughter, right? And the toxicity is minimal. For all of that to happen, processing is an absolutely critical component. That self-awareness and discernment is an absolutely critical component of a lot of the work that I do. So it is all so connected. So because wherever you go, there you are. Whether you put on a business casual outfit or your sweatpants, it's the same person wearing different outfit. So
Yeah.
thank you for asking that.
Well,
Now,
the other beautiful thing is that this is like what I just heard in that is it's global. It doesn't matter if you're an executive coach or a coach who's working with inner child and shadow work and spirituality, like I do. It doesn't matter. We all need to process, and processing in a way that is healthy and aligned, and it takes you somewhere, and it makes everything else.
mm,
I don't know if better is the right word, but that's the word that came in. So
yes. So to
yeah.
answer your earlier question of where they can find me,
Yeah.
either email me at alinadoran.com, or they can reach out and find me on highlineleadership.com on my website.
Nice. I love it. Thank you for your time today. I very much appreciate you. It's been great.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on. I love it. I love our conversations. I love when we record them.
Yeah, we should record all of them
That's
because there's always
right.
golden nuggets.
I love your insights and your heart and your soul and your wisdom and vulnerability.
Likewise, 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 my friend. All right, that's a wrap for today. Bye. Be you every day.